everyone, my name is Becky Goddard-Hill. I'm a parenting author and blogger, and I'm also a qualified life coach. I write the parenting advice over at the Let's Revision Guide site, and I'm excited to be here with you today to talk about activities for you to do with your kids in the school summer holidays. So first of all, can I suggest you get yourself a notebook and a pen, because I've only got 15 minutes and I've got absolutely tons and tons of ideas to share with you. I'm so excited. I could probably talk for about 2 hours about this topic. I love the school summer holidays. My children are 10 and 13 now, and so I've got a lot of experience of filling them up with lots of different things. And for a long while we've lived on a budget, so a lot of my ideas are thrifty, and I really like my kids to keep learning during the summer, because I'm aware that when they don't keep learning through the summer, when they go back to school, it all feels a bit of a struggle, and they seem to have gone a bit backwards, particularly in regard to spelling and writing. So I definitely like to keep them learning a little bit at least during the holidays. So if you're ready, I'm going to kick off with some ideas on how we're going to be able to do that. So from an educational point of view, I think it's really important that learning occurs as naturally as possible through the summer months. And one of my absolutely favourite activities that occurs every summer is the Summer Reading Challenge at your local library. This occurs across the UK, and over the course of 6 weeks, the libraries encourage children to read 6 books. And they get stickers and a little prize at the end of it, and each year there's a theme. I know we're a week into the holidays at the moment, but nevertheless, if you head down to your library, tell them you're interested in the Summer Reading Challenge. They really will keep your children reading this summer. And best of all, it's free. So that's a wonderful way to keep them reading. Also, of course, there's comics. Children love to read little brochures about what you're doing on your day out, and maybe recipes, all sorts of things. Just get them reading things out loud to keep it going is my advice really when it comes to that. When it comes to writing, something we've always done as a family is to keep a summer journal. We used to, when my children were younger, I would write it, and I would stick in things like maybe a photo we'd taken during the day, or a picture, or a bus ticket. And at the end of summer, we'd have a lovely journal packed full of memories. And I would read out to them what I'd written and help them recap the day and get them to join in. This is really good for their process of recall and for kind of constructing a story. Now they're older, I get them to write these themselves, which is wonderful writing practice for them. Just a couple of lines, but it's a lovely way to encourage an attitude of gratitude so they appreciate what's happened during their day, and also so they're building up this brilliant memory bank of what they've done over this summer, and something that when they're older they will love to look back on. So that's a really good way to get them writing. I find too that when they do keep these gratitude journals, and they do keep their scrapbooks going, it's a lovely wind down activity in the evening, and a lovely way to forget kind of any troubles that have happened during the day or squabbles with siblings, but to really just focus on what was good about that day and appreciate it. So a lovely way to keep them writing. And then I suppose it's maths. Maths to kids can seem like a subject that totally belongs in school. And I think as parents it's our job during the holidays to show them how actually maths is part of our everyday. So when we make cakes with them, if we get them measuring and weighing, doubling quantities, thinking about how many people they're feeding and how many cakes each we need. If we get them, when we're going to the shops, to budget how much they're going to need to buy, I don't know, some bread and some milk, and how much they're going to have to pay for the bus fares if it's 2 people, and just make maths a regular part of life so that the brains keep ticking over, they keep using their math skills, but also they begin to see how it is relevant in real life and not just a subject for school. So there are 3 activities that will keep reading, writing and maths going, which is really quite straightforward and quite simple, but important so that we avoid the summer slump. Now I've been asked some questions which I would like to answer for you, and the first one I think is a question a lot of us struggle with. these days when technology is so prevalent in our children's life and so very attractive to them. So the first question is, my child is glued to his Xbox and doesn't want to do anything but play video games. I think we've all been there, haven't we? What can I do to encourage him to go outside and explore? Well, what can you do to encourage them to go outside and explore? Quite a lot, I think. Personally, when I've come up against this problem, I have been quite firm about it. And I've said, you know what, you can have screen time, but we will do that after we've done our family activity or after you've been out and done some activity. And negotiate that the physical activity, the outdoors activity, comes first. And I'm quite firm about that. I'm also boundaried about how much screen time is quite hard to say, screen time my child can have, and I make that very clear with them, and we agree to this at the start of the summer, and we don't waver from it, no matter whether it's a rainy day or whether there's nothing else going on that day. We have clear boundaries round it, and I'm quite firm about that too. So I also, to encourage them to get out and about, is rope in friends. I find if we've agreed to meet other people at the park, they're going to go. If they know their friends are there, they're going to want to go. I make activities as exciting as possible. So perhaps we go and do a ropes course, or we go and play golf, things that really attract and interest them. Because once they're out and about, they have a whale of a time. So yeah, involve other people, make it attractive, be clear about boundaries and firm that this is what's going to happen. And I did a bit of a cunning thing this summer and bought my son a Fitbit. He loves a challenge. So in having a Fitbit, he, only a cheap one, it wasn't an actual Fitbit. In having a cheap one, he is really challenged every day to get his steps in. And yeah, he loves it. So a bit of tech that actually gets him out, which is brilliant. Okay, my next question was, my child loves solving puzzles and riddles. Fantastic. All logic stuff there. Can you recommend any good activities that he could sink his teeth into? I can actually. My daughter loves riddles and puzzles, and I often make up challenges for her. One of her absolute favourite is the egg drop challenge, and she often likes to do this when she has a friend over to play, and they always challenge me, and I generally lose. And basically what we do, we take an egg and we drop it out the top window of the house, but we have half an hour first of all to create a covering for it so that it won't smash. Mine tend to smash, theirs tend to survive, but that's okay. We have loads of fun in the process. We also like to do treasure hunts, and sometimes I set up riddles for them to find things. Sometimes I give them a list of like really strange objects that they have to go off and find, and this tests their brain power, and it's lots of fun for them. There's geocaching. I can't say that. Is it caching or caching? I don't know. But where you get coordinates and go off and find treasure. A lovely family activity. And something a friend of mine told me about last week, it's quite new, called treasure trails, which if you go to the website and watch the little video, I think they're about £7. You download them. There's 1,000 of them right across the UK. And you follow a series of clues round the area you're in to move on to the next clue. And apparently they're absolutely fantastic. Treasure trails, they're called. I've not had a go myself, but I've heard wonderful things about them. So lots of ways to get in solving puzzles and riddles. And if they're in the house and it's raining, of course, you can do word searches, crosswords, Sudoku, that kind of thing. Okay, so loads of ideas there, and they're all really great learning opportunities too. My last question that I've been asked is, okay, I'm trying to find some fun educational activities to do in the car on the way to our holiday. Can you recommend any? I can. I actually wrote a blog post about this just yesterday. There's been some recent research done about people's favourite things to do in the car, because we're stuck in the car for hours during the summer holidays, aren't we? And it turns out that technology came fourth, which I just think is great. And yeah, not top of the list for once. And first was singing. People like to sing in the car and listen to music. And second was chatting, which is just brilliant. And third was good old-fashioned games. So lots and lots of learning opportunities there. If you've got older children, perhaps you might be chatting about politics. Perhaps you might be chatting about a recent book you read, and you could ask them lots of questions about it and get them book reviewing without realising it. Top tip. Or perhaps you could listen to an audio book of a classic piece of literature together. You know, that's a really nice thing to do, isn't it? With younger children, of course, you can play I Spy, you can count how many red cars go by and get their basic maths and their basic spelling working away. I've got a question here from Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn. My little girl is obsessed with Sudokus at the moment, much to the frustration of my mum, who hates them. Yes, but how good for her maths is that, and for her problem-solving skills? Fantastic, Carolyn. That's really great to hear, and thanks for your comment. Wonderful. So, they were my questions. Now I want to share with you loads more ideas for fun things you can do this summer. And what you'll find with all of them is natural learning does occur. So, walking. Walking is a fab, thrifty activity. But if you say to kids, let's go for a walk, the chances are they'll probably go, really? So call it something else. Call it, hey, let's go fly a kite. Let's take the scooters out. Let's go and feed the ducks. Let's go bark rubbing at the local park. Let's go and pick some flowers for flower pressing, yeah? Call it something different and get the kids outside. They love the fresh air. They love walking. It's just sometimes you need to encourage them by giving a theme to that walk. The more they do, the stronger the legs will get. The more they do, the more they get used to it. And it's a really great, great activity. One thing my children love to do together or with friends is to make a movie. They use iMovie on their phones, but basically any camera would do, or any phone with a little camera would do. And they run around the house pretending to be spies or some murder mystery or whatever. They make props, they write a little script, so they're practicing their writing. And they always wrote me in as the bad guy. Always wrote me in as the bad guy. Every time. And then they have absolute hilarity showing it back to anyone that will sit and watch it. It's a lovely way to pass the time, uses loads of creativity skills, and it's great fun. They also still love den building, and this is an activity they've done since they were really, really small, actually. And we like to do it indoors. I say we because, again, they will often rope me into this, and I have to squeeze into these tiny dens where I don't fit. So they like to den build under the sofa, around the back of the sofa, I should say, or under the kitchen table. And they like to do it in the garden and sometimes even up in our local woods. And all I have to do is provide either a few props or a few snacks and a bit of encouragement. So den building is a top activity, and it's really good for their problem solving skills, how to make this work, how to make this balance, that kind of thing. We also like to DVD swap in the holidays. Do you do that? Well, the cinema is a really expensive activity, yet watching films is really good for kids. It gets them to think about different characters, about plots and storylines, and it can really open their world. But it is very expensive to go to the cinema. So what I suggest is you send a text this afternoon to a couple of friends and say, can we come and look at your DVDs? And would you like to look at ours? And maybe you could just take a photo or write a list, or they could pop round and see, and then do some swaps. So your kids have got a batch of fresh films to watch this summer, but it hasn't cost you a penny. You just swap in return. It's a really good idea, and it's a lovely way to pass the time. So what else do we have? Well, we like family challenges. I've talked about egg dropping, but how about making paper aeroplanes and seeing who flies the furthest, or a Lego tower and who can make it go the highest? All of this is great for kids. They're having to think and use their brains and problem solve, and it's really educational too. So what else do we have? Well, of course, there's sport. I find in term time that what happens, in our home at least, is the children do their sport away from us. We'll take them to swimming, we'll take them to tennis. They might go canoeing with scouts, for example, or they might do athletics with school, but they don't do it with us. And I like to see my children learn and grow. And that's just as important educationally, physically and socially. So sport as an activity to do as a family is really lovely, and that could be tennis in the garden. It could be you call up a couple of families you know and you all meet at a local field and have a big game of rounders, or you could take your kids for a little kick around of football in the park. It's just really nice to be together as a family, working on teamwork, working on rules and fair play, developing those physical skills and just having loads of fun. So don't forget just basic good old fashioned sport when it comes to planning your school holidays. It's really nice. You even go and have a little round of golf perhaps together somewhere. You know, so many different ideas and loads of fun to be had. I think school holidays are a really magical time. We get time to play. I know we all have totally different circumstances, don't we? Some of us work for ourselves, so we squeeze in our working hours around our children playing. Some of us work full time and just have a few days off with the kids here or there. And some of us have the children all the time, and it can feel hard to fill. But actually there's lots and lots to do. If you plan it in, and if you think about involving them in stuff that, well, on the surface might sound a bit dull. Oh, today we're going to bake and we're going to watch a DVD and go for a walk. But you put a bit of thought and creativity behind it and make it magic, you know. It can be absolutely brilliant. One of the favourite things for my kids to do is to look at old photographs. I get down a box of old photographs and they're happy for hours asking me questions about who's this and who's that. It doesn't have to cost a lot. I'm almost out of time. I'm so sorry, so much I still want to say. But I would advise you look at your local council website and you go on to NetMums, for example, and you ask your friends if they know what's local and free this summer, because everyone will know something you don't. Absolutely guaranteed. And once you've asked the question, even just pop it in your Facebook profile. Does anyone know anything going on? Free events this summer, or really interesting exhibits to visit at local museums, that kind of thing. You'll get loads of feedback, and then plot them in. If there's a free play day at the local park, pop that in. If there's a great exhibition on for kids at the local museum, pop that in. And fill up your diary that way. It's all learning, all socialising, all play, all creativity. When they grab a milk jug from the recycling bin and turn it into an elephant, you know, or whatever, they're learning, they're creating, they're thinking, and they're problem solving. Just keep them busy, keep them active, and keep them as far as possible off just sitting staring at screens. I hope you have an amazing summer. Thank you so much for joining today. And if you've got any suggestions of other activities that you would like to share with the rest of us that would make these summer holidays absolutely magic, then please leave them in the comments below, because that's one of the best ways to get ideas, is to have that conversation with other parents who are experiencing the same thing, a long summer holiday, a limit on the amount of money they've got, and a desire to make it magical and interesting and a brilliant learning experience for their kids. So happy summer holidays, everyone. It's been really nice to spend this time with you. And as I say, thank you so much for joining us. Take care and have a great summer.